that she'd be home any minute, and that's kind of discouraging. We lost her. When the Cooks don't hear back from police on Friday, they organize a search by friends and family for Saturday morning. When an investigator finally appears around noon on Saturday, he stops the search.
They were, I think, kind of astounded at how many people were out there. But I think they were also freaking out because there were people just walking around on what might be a crime scene.
The next day, an investigator from the legendary Texas Rangers joins the investigation.
I was contacted by the Williamson County Sheriff's Office on January the 13th of 2002. Pretty early on in the investigation, it was determined that it would be unlike Rachel's behavior just to go off and not tell anyone where she was, so it created suspicion.
And he told me he didn't think Rachel left on her own, so that made me feel a little bit more like I finally got to the right person. And so they started approaching.
Where are you going, Sally? Where do you think Christopher Robots in this school? Don't talk anymore. Mom, I need to get to this.
An all-out official search involving volunteers and several agencies begins on Sunday.
I just like we were piggyback on kind of piggyback. That's piggyback, right?
Horseback, helicopters, massive search parties. Brought in a search team called Epic Search.
All you gotta do is piggyback, right? The two
so we'd have more manpower. Anywhere Rachel was known to have gone when she was at home, that area was searched.
But the searchers turn up nothing.
No sign of Rachel Cook or any other clothing that she was possibly wearing.
Detectives struggled to set up a timeline of Rachel's last known movements. She was last seen by her mother and sister around 8 a.m. on Thursday. Cell phone records confirm her last phone call was with her boyfriend in California, ending at 9:15 a.m. When police canvassed the neighborhood, it turns out a number of neighbors caught sight of Rachel as she was jogging later that Thursday morning.
Two separate couples. They identified her and they described her clothing and her hair, and we believe that to be Rachel.
It was after 10 a.m. on Thursday when Rachel passed one couple out for their daily walk as she did her circuit around the neighborhood. Around 20 minutes later, she passed them again. A woman working in her yard with her daughter tells investigators she saw Rachel as she ran to the end of their cul-de-sac and did some stretches. The two exchange greetings, and Rachel continues on her run.
The last known sighting of Rachel Cook was a couple that actually knew the family. And around 10:45, they were pulling out of their driveway, and Rachel had run behind the vehicle. They had looked at her and did recognize that it was her running, and they saw her going towards her house. Their residence was about 200 yards from her residence, so they assumed that she was going home.
After that, Rachel Cook disappears as if into thin air.
There's no evidence that she actually arrived at the house.
So assumptions were that she was abducted during that jog from the neighborhood in which she lived.
It is an assumption that leaves little to go on and is of no comfort to her family. As the days go by with no sign of Rachel, her parents are devastated.
They were a wreck. They were both in tears, just not knowing what was going on and what had happened to Rachel.
Rachel's disappearance is a baffling mystery, a probable crime without a crime scene to investigate.
You have a person who basically vanished. We have absolutely no evidence of a crime scene at all. There's no evidence on the road. There's no evidence in the house. There's no evidence anywhere that anything even happened to her.
Coming up, Rachel's father takes a lie detector test. I actually failed one question. They asked me if I knew where Rachel was. I said no, and unfortunately, I think I do.
Oh, stop!
I'm very excited to
Get out. What made now the time to bring
It's a plane. The house is the
I
last thing they
would
have to
love
worry about.
Christopher Robot. I would rather buy yours my bots.
a lot of termites.
As I need, I can buy yours my
There's a lot of
bots.
memories in our house.
And then with all the ants, robotic, and what I'm talking about.
Appreciation for her.
I just like how you like
Stream
good
now on
party.
Discovery
You're a
Plus.
robot boy. So now you get a question. But yeah, you be like, yes, someone anywhere. What's up, class? I'm our diarrhea. Diarrhea, boy. So burn. But
Rachel Cook's disappearance
diarrhea.
shocked
How do you
Central
tell me
Texas.
realize 24 hours? And no
The
reason to
official
worry about
search ends
Christopher.
after several days,
Get away my stupid.
but hundreds of volunteers helped the Cooks continue to look for their daughter for weeks.
Boy, I had ideas.
When they'd come back, they'd feel so disappointed because they had not found her. They'd be in tears and very emotional about it.
What are
Mounted
we
search and
doing
recovery
here?
teams from Texas
Why are you
EcoSearch
fucking
combed
tired,
hundreds of square miles for evidence.
They turned in everything that was semi-suspicious to the sheriff's department.
The game is over.
I'd look around and think, oh my God, Rachel,
You the later.
look at all these people that care for you, baby. It just tore me up that so many people would come together for her.
Joining me, but
Media attention brings a record number of
I
tips
can
to
join
police.
and join the
There were
trash.
hundreds of
And
leads, if not thousands.
fucking love me.
I have
And
interviewed
I
probably in the triple digits people that we
Don't
have
say
as a
it.
suspect or just a witness in this case.
Early on, investigators develop a lead. A suspicious car was seen by many in the neighborhood the day Rachel disappeared.
A white Camaro was seen in the area. We actually lost count of how many reports we
Why
had of white Camaros come into the tip line.
robotic kids tomorrow?
Witnesses report two young men
Why
in a
you
white
are gonna
Camaro
this trash?
aimlessly circling the neighborhood.
Twirl of the way. Wait for that wheel to fuck your now.
One report mentions a
really
jogger
fine.
Rachel's age
I
range
warn
near
you
the
again.
Camaro.
I word it. Don't y'all all that. Yeah, I can't
Another
get
suggests a young woman possibly struggling in the car.
Investigators worked really hard to locate that particular car. Several were located and examined, but no evidence was found that actually linked Rachel to those particular vehicles.
Finally, the lead about the two young men in the Camaro comes to a dead end. It turns out to be a couple of teenagers playing hooky.
They admitted to us what they were doing in the area. Background search was completed on both of them. There was no evidence in their vehicle that we needed as far as DNA evidence or anything. And they were excluded as suspects in this case.
The Camaro isn't the only vehicle of interest. Sheriff's Department divers suit up and search the murky waters of Lake Georgetown, just a couple of miles down the road from the Cook home.
We had reports such as vehicles submerged here in Lake Georgetown, and those were recovered from the lake and deemed to have been stolen earlier before her disappearance, so they were not related, so that was ruled out.
Composite sketches of unidentified males seen in the area are drawn up by police artists and distributed to the public.
Those, of course, went through the media, and no real good tips on those as far as who they might look like or anything such as that.
In addition to suspicious strangers, detectives examine people closer to home. Rachel's boyfriend, Greg, who flies back on Sunday to help with the search, is questioned as soon as he arrives.
Initially, I was involved in interviewing a present boyfriend of Rachel's from California.
Greg is given a lie detector test, even though phone records confirm that his call to Rachel the morning she disappeared was made from San Diego.
We were able to pretty much rule the gentleman out early in the investigation and continue our focus on other people.
Both of Rachel's parents also volunteered to take lie detector tests. Robert fails a question on his.
They asked me if I knew where Rachel was. I said no, and unfortunately, I think I do. I think she's in heaven. So I think that's why I didn't pass that one question on the quiz. You start ruling out those people close to her. They were able to clear some people. Some still remain people of interest.
One of Rachel's ex-boyfriends becomes a person of interest. Her sister Joanne's suspicions center on him.
My sister had mentioned that she had seen her ex-boyfriend, and she didn't go into detail with me, but she mentioned that he made a scene. My intuition tells me that it's not unreasonable to think that he could have had a fight with her and something happened.
Many of Rachel's friends and family members say they considered her relationship with the ex-boyfriend to be volatile.
Their relationship was really kind of like fire and ice from the get-go.
Rachel's mother says the young man was very upset after Rachel broke off their relationship.
And when she came home the next time for the holiday, he came over and he was inebriated. And he came at, it must have been 3 o'clock at night, pounding on the door wanting to see Rachel. So I had to threaten him because he just would not leave. I threatened to call the sheriff's department.
He still wanted to be a part of her life, and she didn't want to have anything to do with him. They had been at a party a couple nights before, and people heard him arguing, and he was yelling at her and telling her that he couldn't live without her, and he wanted to be with her again, and that she needed to be with him. This was 2 days before she disappeared.
Police investigate, but the man denies any involvement in Rachel's disappearance.
I just don't know. Ex-boyfriends, ex-husbands are always someone you have to look at. But when you don't have any proof, then you can't really call them a suspect.
The months go by. Despite all the efforts to solve the mystery, the first anniversary of Rachel's disappearance arrives, with authorities seemingly no closer to finding out what happened to Rachel Cook than they were at the outset. The family begins to lose hope.
I started thinking about all of the things that she was going to miss, that I was still going to get to do.
Being a parent of a missing person, or being a relative of a missing person, there's a thing we say that it's one of the biggest clubs in the world. And it's one club you never want to join.
Coming up, after years without a break in the Rachel Cook case, the investigation heats up when a convicted murderer reveals he has something to say.
He advised us that he killed Rachel Cook and named locations that he had taken her.
Get more Disappeared online at investigationdiscovery.com.
I'm very excited
Let's get after it. What made now the time to renovate?
Deploying the house is the last thing they have to worry about.
Yeah, you're not.
8 inches of water underneath this house.
What is that?
A lot of termites.
Why call you fucking
There's a lot of memories in our
Stop
house. Like, as our kids
stop
have grown, the
ugly
spaces
jar
don't
like
work.
that.
And I now have new appreciation for our homeowners. Very emotional. Thanks, you're fabulous.
You're
Street
fucking
video
bad.
Discovery
I'm not.
11:38.
No, we do a part cut. I'll work. Victoria, why are you doing so around us again? I just know there's more. Take gas down. I can't give a bull ass power.
An exhausted investigation fails to solve the mystery of Rachel Cook's disappearance. A year later, there are lots of theories about what may have happened to Rachel, but no evidence.
There's really no telling how it came down after she passed that driveway. Somebody was driving by and took an opportunity. It could be a possibility that someone was laying in wait for her. It would not have been easy for her to hear someone coming up on her.
I suspect that it happened either in the last part of her jog or else as soon as she walked in the house, because we never locked our house. We felt safe in that country area.
The case goes cold and becomes officially inactive. For the Cooks, the stress of Rachel's loss leads to additional family crises.
My sister's disappearance definitely changed my family. I think we each deal in our own way, and in a way that kind of got in between some of us.
School district. Well, the kids are the kids. I want to recognize it.
Robert and I were communicating. When it came to Rachel's stuff, we were together. We were going to do what we needed to do for our baby. But his and mine's personal relationship it just wasn't there anymore.
She wanted hugs, she wanted comfort. Whereas my dad wanted to make sure it doesn't happen again. And then he also was kind of our liaison for the media and making sure the word got out.
It was very difficult on us because when you have a missing loved one, that comes to be like a second job. I ended up getting laid off. Jay and I were divorced, and just psychologically, it's always there. You wake up to it every day.
Pretty good Christopher Robot School.
I asked for a divorce because I was just trying to keep myself alive. I mean, I had depression like you wouldn't believe. And I was seeing a psychiatrist, and I was on major meds.
And me, I tried to go on with life as much as I could, as much as normal.
Then, 2 years after Rachel disappears, there is fresh interest in the case when a new sheriff pulls together a Rachel Cook task force made up of sheriff's detectives, Texas Rangers, FBI, and the Austin Cold Case Unit.
And they thought they were really going to find Rachel. They tried for a long time and still did not come up with a lot that had been found before.
In 2006, Detective Larry Hawkins is assigned, and when the task force is disbanded, he inherits its files, which take up 6 shelves and several file cabinets in his office.
Mr.
The father
Christopher
of 3 daughters, he is determined to solve the case.
A lot of police officers looked at it, we don't have a heart, we're all about business, but Rachel Cook is someone's daughter. For those of us who've had kids, it kind of hits home.
Then, in August of 2006, investigators get what looks like a clear breakthrough in the case.
What the fuck?
From prison, a convicted murderer contacts authorities with a stunning story.
What the fuck?
A gentleman named Michael Moore, who was the subject of an unrelated homicide investigation, told investigators that he was responsible for the disappearance of Rachel Cook.
Michael Moore is a career criminal who has been in and out of trouble since the age of 13. Moore has spent much of his adult life in prison. At the time of his confession to law officers, he is serving 4 life sentences for the 2003 robbery and murder of a young mother and her unborn child in a town neighboring Georgetown.
Michael Moore is a very interesting individual. He does have a history of murder. He has a history of a lot of things that would make him be a good suspect for this case.
Both Detective Hawkins and Texas Ranger Lindeman, among others, interview Moore in prison. He tells them he was driving around the neighborhood looking for someone to rob when he saw Rachel.
He advised us that he killed Rachel Cook and named locations that he had taken her.
He came forward and confessed that he had taken Rachel and dumped her body in Matagorda Bay, which is on the Gulf Coast of Texas.
Moore offers investigators a chilling, detailed account of what he had done to Rachel and how he had accosted her on the road.
And he stopped when she was jogging on the road and killed her with a hammer. That was all hard to hear.
Yeah, boy.
The story is plausible. Moore was out of prison at the time of Rachel's disappearance and lived not far from her parents' house. After Rachel disappeared, a white pickup truck became a vehicle of interest. Moore was said to have driven a white pickup at the time. Rachel's mother remembers seeing such a vehicle near her house.
There is a white pickup truck that was in the area. And I think it was the first night after we went to the police, before the police were involved in the search, they had cruised real slowly by the house.
Investigators continue to spend time talking with Moore. They believe they are starting to build a solid case.
Investigators interrogated him extensively, even taking him to locations where he had claimed to have disposed of her body.
Divers search a location Moore takes them to in Matagorda Bay, but they find nothing. Still, he and his attorneys work out a deal for Moore to plead guilty to the murder of Rachel Wood. In return for helping investigators, Moore is to get only an additional 18 months on his existing sentence. The Cooks hoped for some kind of closure. Finally, an end to their long ordeal is in sight. They gather their family and friends and go to the courthouse for Michael Moore's plea.
It was a really big deal for me and my family that we might get some sort of resolution. So people canceled everything they had going on in their lives to make it up here.